Let's head back to Garden Grove, California to the John Lazenby Chrysler Collection.
John, it's not a 300 car, but it's absolutely stunning, this 55 Imperial. And tell us how they were Chrysler Imperials and then they became Imperials. How did that all happen?
Well, they were Chrysler Imperials through 1954, which was Chrysler's really top-of-the-line car. And by 1955, they decided to make the Imperial its own mark, which this was the first offering of it. And once again, with Virgil Exner at the helm, they really went all out. The car went from what most people consider a pretty stodgy, tall, undescriptive car to this, and it really had an impact on the industry against its competitors, Lincoln's and Cadillac.
They did a little mix and match on these, didn't they? In that they took the front end off of one Chrysler product and from the cowl back on another, and they changed the grille. Am I correct in that?
Well, yeah, the first 2 years of the 300 actually used the Imperial grille shells and some of the trim. The bumpers are different, but that's basically where the 300 came from. But this was the first offering of this front end.
Of course, the gun sight taillights.
Yeah, they did a lot of things. They did the bomb sight or the microphone or the gun sight taillights, those were actually taken off of Exner styling cars probably 10 years earlier. The radius wheel well openings were unique to this particular car. The bumpers, there's no exposed bumper bolts, and it has a continuous belt line around the bottom of the car it's unbroken, and that was once again unique to this car.
Goes up over the wheel well.
Right.
Then the Kelsey Hayes wire wheels, you can't get any better than that.
Well, actually they're not Kelsey Hayes, they're motor wheel. That's a very common misconception, but they're motor rim and wheel. Yeah, they make the cars. They make the cars, and those are the real deal. All of my cars have genuine wheels on them that I've restored rather than buying reproduction wheels.
You have everything here looks like showroom, brand new to my eyes. How many of them came to you in that condition, or how many of them were you starting with something that was rusting into the ground and you recreated it or restored it to this level?
It's really a mix. I don't know that I had anything that was rusting to the ground, but I did have some that needed help. This particular car, as an example, I bought for, really, it would be considered kind of a parts car. It was in pieces, it was a shell. I didn't know if I was getting all the pieces, and I didn't get everything I eventually did. And this was a car that I thought, well, I'll whip this thing together in 6 months to a year, and the bottom line, it ended up taking me 5.5 years and a lot of frustration, and probably 3 times the initial investment that I anticipated to do.
This isn't a 300, so why did you decide to include this in your collection?
It was kind of I've always liked Imperials. I happen to be one of the guys that actually likes the 54 and earlier cars because of the quality of the build. But I thought it was a nice addition. It kind of rounded out what I had because I really gravitate towards the 55 and 56 cars. And this particular car, the 55 Imperial, was such a landmark vehicle from a styling exercise. I thought it would just be a great addition.
Did the Imperial, when it split off to be its own mark within the Chrysler Corporation, how long did that last, and did it then at some point become a Chrysler Imperial again, or did it just go away?
I believe, yeah, I think, I'm not real sure, but I believe the number run was 10 or 11 years as an Imperial on its own mark, and then it did kind of revert back to the Chrysler line and kind of became really diluted.
Is it true that Chrysler separated the Imperials from the Chrysler Imperials in an effort to compete one-on-one with Cadillac?
Yeah, I think so. And they, in '55, they made a big impact on Cadillac and Lincoln both with this car.
Were they successful at that?
They were much more successful than they had been in years gone by. They probably got, I'm guessing 40 to 50% of Cadillac's volume between their coupe and their sedan that they offered in this year.
You and I are old enough to be around when these cars were brand new, but I think we were young enough at that time to not fully have witnessed the impact of the change from Chrysler products from 54 to 55. That was, man, they went from Grandma and Grandpa, wealthy Grandma and Grandpa's car, to the wealthy young executive or somebody that appreciated a fast car. Was that all Virgil Exner's doing, you think?
Yeah, pretty much. Exner had been at the reins since the early 50s, but he had you know, design issues he had to work with due to finances, and by 55 he was finally able to kind of do his own thing.
He was in control.
Yeah.
Well, they certainly went from stodgy to sexy in 55, and then from that point on, wow, at least
Right.
through, you know, 59 or 60, man.
Yeah, and in fact, I believe it's the 1957 Imperial that was Virgil Exner's personal favorite car that he ever did.
Mm-hmm.